Welcome to the archives of legend and lore. I am the Chaotic GM, and every week I'll bring you a monster, humanoid, aberration, or some other being to the gaming table and put it in the spotlight, so to say. We'll discuss some of the lore, the differences in additions, and possible ways to use them in your one-shot or campaign. I hope everyone had the best Thanksgiving that they could, and as you can tell, I took the week off to spend it with family. This time, we look into the ones of lost honor, Death Knights. Before we jump into the lore, I hope you enjoy our story, the Ebony Tower of Greyland Town. It was a normal, warm summer day outside the small town of Greyland. The mayor, Mr. Reach, and his girlfriend, RJ, were repairing the walls of their town when a mist rolled in. It was a thick mist and blotted out the sun. Screams and other dreadful noises came from the mist. Mr. Reach, sometimes easily frightened, was startled by this. He yelled,
"No! RJ!"
and she ran to his side, always quick to help. The two headed into the safety of their walls, but the mist kept getting thicker and thicker. Some stew was cooking on the fire, so they barred their doors and windows and decided to sit down and open up some mail they'd received. RJ had gotten a box that contained some new eyeglass made from a wizard called Nvidia. The mist forgotten, they ate the stew and drifted off to sleep. When morning came, the mist was gone, but a shadow loomed over their town. Stepping out from the relative safety of the walls, a massive black tower sat where nothing had been the day before. Reach bravely went up to the front steps to examine this new neighbor. Looking around, he found no knocker, so he balled up his hand and banged hard on the door. The knock echoed inside, sounding impossibly loud, and then silence. He waited for some time, but heard nothing, and just as he turned and shrugged to RJ, that had come out to witness his triumph or demise, he heard loud boot steps echo from within the tower. They were getting closer, and he fought the urge to make a run for the town. Just as his nerve was almost gone, the noise stopped, and the door creaked open. Slowly turning around, Reach almost passed out from the vision before him. A very tall figure took up the entire doorway, and the helmed head stared down at him. The knight was clad in armor, almost as black as the tower itself. A voice, booming and commanding, rang through his bones. "Where is this?"
Greyland.
Reach replied. The figure looked around, swiveling the enormous head back and forth. "Is this Kryn?" Reach shook his head no, and the figure just looked at him, the red glowing dots almost burning a hole into him. He sighed. "Unless you want me to lay waste to this area, leave me be, and I will be gone as soon as I can." The figure turned, walked back inside, and closed the door. Reach ran back to RJ, not believing what had just happened. RJ explained to him she had read about this tower and the being it held. It was Lunatar, the Death Knight. Through magic, he teleported his castle through time and dimensions, trying to find the place that he made a wrong choice and was cursed to live forever in the form he was now. This isn't the first time he had visited this world. The last time was right before the apocalypse they now lived in. Mr. Reach and RJ went back into their town and didn't come out until a week later when the tower and the Death Knight were gone. Okay, this story was me poking a little bit of fun at a great couple that I follow and support on Patreon and YouTube. Reach Gaming puts out gaming videos and other great things. Let me tell you, those two have great chemistry and they'll make you laugh. But you know what? Don't take my word for it. Go on over to YouTube and check them out. Links will be in the description. We will start off with 2nd edition this time. The first Death Knight I read about or experienced was Lord Soth from the Dragonlance series and the World of Kryn. If you hadn't had the chance, read up on him. The series is by far my favorite of all the worlds. A Death Knight is the horrifying corruption of a paladin or lawful good warrior cursed by the gods to its terrible form as punishment for betraying the code of honor it held in life. They were judged by the gods to be guilty of unforgivable crimes, such as murder or treason. For instance, Kryn's Lord Soth, the most famous of all Death Knights, murdered his wife so that he could continue an affair with an elf maid. That's not the whole story, but you need to read it. Death Knights are cursed to remain in their former domains, usually castles or other strongholds. They are further condemned to remember their crime in a song on any night when the moon is full. Few sounds are as terrifying as the Death Knight's chilling melody echoing through the moonlit countryside. Death Knights are likely to attack any creature that interrupts their songs or trespasses in their domains. A Death Knight resembles a hulking knight, typically taller than 6 feet and weighing more than 300 pounds. Its face is a blackened skull covered with shards of shriveled, rotting flesh. It has 2 tiny glowing red pinpoints for eyes. Its armor is scorched black as if it had been in a fire. The demeanor of a Death Knight is so terrifying that even Kender... You don't know what Kender are? Look 'em up. Those little buggers are fun. Have been known to be frightened. A Death Knight's deep, chilling voice seems to echo from the depths of a bottomless cavern. A Death Knight converses in a language it spoke in its former life. 5th edition says when a paladin that falls from grace dies without seeking atonement, dark powers can transform the once mortal knight into a hateful, undead creature. A Death Knight is a skeletal warrior clad in fearsome plate armor. Beneath its helmet, one can see the knight's skull with malevolent pinpoints of light burning in its eye sockets. The Death Knight retains the ability to cast divine spells. However, no Death Knight can use its magic to heal. A Death Knight also attracts and commands lesser undead. Death Knights often use warhorse skeletons or nightmares as mounts. A Death Knight can arise anew even after it has been destroyed. Only when it atones for a life of wickedness or finds redemption can it finally escape its undead purgatory and truly perish. In 5th edition, Lord Soth began his fall from grace with an act of heroism, saving an elf named Isolde from an ogre. Soth and Isolde fell in love, but Soth was already married. He had a servant dispose of his wife and was charged with murder, but fled with Isolde. When his castle fell under siege, he prayed for guidance and was told that he must atone for his misdeeds by completing a quest, but growing fears about Isolde's fidelity caused him to abandon his quest. Because his mission was not accomplished, a great cataclysm swept the land. When Isolde gave birth to a son, Soth refused to believe that the child was his, and slew them both. All were incinerated in a fire that swept through the castle, yet Soth would find no rest in death, becoming a Death Knight. In case you couldn't tell, I like the Lord Soth story. Well, actually I like all the stories from Krynn. Pathfinder doesn't really have Death Knights. The closest I could find that wasn't homebrew was a Grave Knight, and they're actually different, being undead warriors that have a cursed suit of armor. So unfortunately, we'll have to let Pathfinder take a nap this week. This week's sponsor is Dev Junkies Used Autos. Are you tired of walking everywhere in the apocalypse? Sure, the bike works, but even the zombie girls know it's not cool. Come on down to Dev Junkies Used Autos, and we'll cut you a heck of a deal. We have motorcycles. We have 4x4 trucks. We have them for every price range. We even have insurance plans, so if you log on and your ride is gone, we'll replace it at no charge. So remember, come down and see old Uncle Dev. He has all the colors and deals for you. A Death Knight in 2nd edition retains the fighting skills it had in its former life. Since it has little regard for its own safety and an intense hatred for most living creatures, it is an extremely dangerous opponent. Still, a Death Knight retains a semblance of pride that it held as a good warrior and fights honorably. It never ambushes opponents from behind, nor does it attack before an opponent has opportunity to ready its weapon. Surrender is unknown to a Death Knight, and it will parley only if it senses its opponent has crucial information, such as the fate of a former family member. A Death Knight wears the same armor it wore in its previous life, but regardless of the quality of the armor, it always has an AC of 0. A Death Knight magical ability make it specially dangerous. It constantly generates fear in a 5-foot radius and can cast Detect Magic, Detect Invisibility, and Wall of Ice at will. Twice per day, it can cast a spell magic. Once per day, it can cast either Power Word Blind, Power Word Kill, or Power Word Stun. It can also cast Symbol of Fear or Symbol of Pain once per day, as well as a 20 dice fireball once per day. Holy, these guys, they're packing a punch, I'm telling you. All of its magical spells function at the 20th level of ability. A Death Knight cannot be turned, but it can be dispelled by Holy Word spell. It has the power over undead of a 6th level evil priest. Its magic resistance is 75%, and if an 11 or lower is rolled on a percentile die, the spell is reflected back at the caster, and the magic resistance is re-rolled each time that a spell is cast at the Death Knight. 5th edition is almost identical to 2nd, with different dice rolls of course, but they have a special ability of Hellfire Orb, and they can use it only once a day. The Death Knight hurls a magical ball of fire, kind of like a fireball, that explodes at a point it can see within 120 feet of it. Each creature in a 20-foot radius, centered on the point in a sphere, must make a dexterity saving throw. The sphere spreads around corners, and creatures take fire damage and necrotic damage on a failed save, or half the damage on a successful one. It's my favorite part of the show, where we put our fear aside and create some ideas for your one-shotter campaign. It's Creative Chaos Corner time. Scenario 1. Okay, I'm just putting it out there. Read Lord Saw's story. Read it, and make a quest line, maybe like to redeem him. Bonus points if you use elven women in it. And if you read the story, you'll know why I said that. Scenario 2. Let's take this one from the story. A Death Knight that was cursed to remain in his tower or keep has, through magic, found a way to travel around by teleporting it wherever and maybe whenever he likes. It's all good and dandy until he pops up to some holy place or temple or whatever you have in your happy little world. The taint from his keep is doing horrible things. You know, like wilting the flowers and rotting the fruit on the trees, or maybe just good old desecration of the land. We need a party of higher than normal level adventurers to remove the foulness from the land. I say higher than normal because they are tough. You could always try and deal with it. I'm sure he loves to talk. It's up to you to wipe the party. No, not wipe the party. I mean fill in the details. Scenario 3. Let's set this out there right away. You don't reason with a Death Knight. You don't offer it golden jewels. It might accept a vice it had in its former life, say elven women. If you haven't read Lord Soth, do it. With that said, a Death Knight has an orb or some other magical item the party needs to end an even bigger bad guy than him. That would be one big bad guy. They have to figure out how to get it from him. This can be pretty tricky as, like I stated, they don't need much. Maybe something along the lines of, hey, the big level 100 bad guy, okay, that might be a little much, but whatever, wants to rule everything, including him. They want to stop, maybe they could stop this big bad guy if they gave him the item he needs. Or perhaps you have a barbarian with a halfling throwing weapon. No, I mean it, I'm being serious. A halfling that he throws. It happened in a game I played in, and I was that halfling. It could be fun or a bloodbath. Enjoy. After that episode, I might need to rethink some of my actions before I die. I might have to ask some forgiveness or atonement. Well, thanks for visiting. I always like having visitors in my little slice of chaos. If you enjoyed yourself, please consider giving me a review on your podcast platform of choice, or like and subscribe on YouTube, where a video format can be found. I can also be found on Facebook as the KIGM. I hope you can join me next time when we blow the dust off the tomes and look deep within their pages. Remember, if you truly are chaotic, your players will never know what you'll throw at them next.